Thanks for joining us. I'm in conversation with Meera Sanyal, former banker, AAP leader, and candidate from Mumbai South. Many thanks for joining us on Bloomberg. My first question to you, for anyone in South Bombay, why should he be voting for the Aam Aadmi Party and for you? Make a pitch.
Actually, there are no alternatives, particularly in South Mumbai. The alternatives you have, regrettably, are tried and tested failures. You have the Congress, who has put up an MP for the last 10 years, who hasn't done much for the city of Bombay. You have a candidate from the MNS, who has been an MLA for 5 years within the MNS, and prior to that within the Shiv Sena. And the candidate from Shiv Sena doesn't have much record in either Parliament or in the Vidhan Sabha. He has been an MLC. But the Shiv Sena has been in power in the BMC for a long period of time. And as I'm going campaigning, essentially what I'm telling people is, if you are happy with what they have done or with what any one of them has done for you or for the future of your children or for the city or for the country, please vote for them. But if you think you need a change, then vote for me. And, you know, you just see the smiles on people's faces. It speaks for itself.
Our audience of investors, business people, we're talking at a time when sentiment is low, economic growth is in a funk. What can the AAP do to fix the economy?
So, Harsha, you've had a look at our manifesto.
Yes.
And you know that I was on the National Committee for the Economic Policy. And our philosophy is very simple. And let's start from the city of Mumbai. This is the commercial heart of our country. And you can see that the city is in decline. It's in terminal decline. People are not living here because housing is not affordable. We have an efficient public transport system, but 4 people or 5 people die every day on the train tracks, and about 10 or 11 are injured grievously. I mean, it's become a very, very difficult city to live in, firstly. The second thing is, it's practically impossible to work in this city. There is such a lot of harassment, there's such a lot of corruption. I was discussing the BMC rules with some, friends the other day. And someone said, Meera, ye chakravyu hai. You know, once you get in, there's no way of getting out. So we have layers and layers of complexity in anyone wanting to do business. If you're a small entrepreneur, and that's true everywhere in the country, even if you're a big entrepreneur, it's very hard to start a business, and it's very hard to run a business. And God forbid you need to shut a business, that's very hard too. So what the Aam Aadmi Party is saying is that we want to unleash the entrepreneurial potential of India. And that's why what we are saying makes sense for this country.
Okay, so you're saying that you will remove the hurdles and so on, but tell me this. Why is it then that there is a perception that the Aam Aadmi Party is bad news for business?
Well, Harsha, I think there has been a lot of people saying that we're very left of center, we're very socialist, we're very communist. I mean, that's what people have been saying. And I think the proof of the pudding is in what we've done while we've been in Delhi, and certainly what we have said in our manifesto. And it's very, very clear that what we are saying is we are pro-business, but we are anti-dishonest business.
Okay, I'll get to the specifics of the manifesto in just a moment. I just want to push this point a little further. The reason perhaps that this perception is there is because many people say that Arvind Kejriwal makes these allegations about top business leaders and so on without much proof and evidence, and this is regular mudslinging like any other political party. Why is then the AAP's politics different?
So let me ask you a question. I mean, this channel knows markets all over the world very well. In the United States of America, you have very respected businessmen like Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, who have had antitrust movements against them. They've paid penalties, their companies have paid fines. And the standards of transparency and accountability and the requirement by the regulators that you provide a level playing field so that everyone can succeed on the basis of their competence and merit rather than on the basis of their contacts or on the basis of, any kind of tiny little cozy deal in the corner works. So what markets look for is transparency. Just because you're a big businessman doesn't mean you're automatically protected. And I find it very, very strange that people like us who understand the functioning of markets don't understand that the kind of crony capitalism we have in India is actually holding India back. What we need to do is to have the rule of law applicable to all. Now, the business house we have targeted, I would say that there is a bank of evidence that we have to say that some of the stuff that has happened is not in the interest of customers, and by the way, not in the interest of India.
Okay. Let me get to your manifesto. You say that the government should not be in the business of running businesses, and I'm quoting from your manifesto. Does that mean you're going to be promoting privatization? What is the thought behind it?
Very much so. So the idea is that what we genuinely believe, and by the way, this is not an AAP idiom. I mean, this was Gandhiji who said this, and we've adopted it from him. I really believe that, and the Aam Aadmi Party believes, that we should be focusing on things that the state should be providing. For example, you see a lot of emphasis in our manifesto on education and healthcare. We believe that the role of the state is important there so that you can provide every chance an equal opportunity at the starting line, which the private sector may or may not be able to do. Education may not be affordable to all, for example, right? So the state should focus on governance, on law and order, and providing those basic things that provide everyone with an equal chance. Everything else we should be out of. And that is our philosophy. How that will actually translate. So you don't tell me you come to power and you're going to privatize Coal India. Certainly, I mean, everything will be done in a phased manner. But within the party, we can see, for example, no reason at all why we should be in so many state-owned enterprises, especially since the state is doing such a poor job of managing them.
This is very pro-market, but let me bring another point, and this is from the manifesto again, where you talk about contract labor, that you're in principle against the idea because it's exploitative. Why?
So, Harsha, let me put it this way. I mean, if you look at our workforce, less than 3% of them is in the formal workforce, right? And what we are seeing across the country is that people are being forced into contract labor because employers, and this is, a view that many of us in the party hold, is that the labor laws now in this country are so complex that pretty much, in your job or in my erstwhile job, you could go to jail, on a non-bailable criminal warrant if there was a minor infraction, say, for example, a woman working beyond 9:30 in some part of the country. I mean, these are the kind of labor laws we have. So what we see is that with the best of intentions, I mean, none of these laws were there for exploiting people, but with the best of intentions, people are not taking other people onto the formal payroll. And our view, and this is to be really seen in terms of how this is going to work out, but what we believe is the kind of collaborative dialogue, say for example that you have in a country like Germany, where you talk with the unions, the objective of everyone in this country should be that there should be more people employed under fair wages in the formal sector. I mean, that is what we would all want. What is the best way for us to get there? And that's what we are looking at. Because, I mean, I can certainly tell you that this current situation is a lose-lose for all. It's a lose for industry, it's a lose for labor, it's a lose for unions, it's a lose for the courts, it's a lose for everybody. We need to convert this.
Arvind Kejriwal talks about Swaraj. Powerful idea. I respect the idea per se. But tell me something, how does that sit along with the idea of attracting foreign capital?
I don't see any contradiction in it at all. So, for example, I mean, I don't know where foreign capital would be involved in this, but let me give you a practical example in the city of Mumbai. As you know, I'm going on foot across the entire city campaigning. And it's very, very evident. South Bombay is a very dense and very compact area. So, in fact, I'm lucky that I can campaign on foot through the constituency. And in areas which are sitting cheek by jowl. So, for example, you will find that you have Kaf Parade sitting cheek by jowl with Ambedkar Nagar, Ganesh Murthy Nagar, and Geeta Nagar. And of course, the issues are very, very different, right? And both sets of issues are extremely important. Now, the question is, how do you address this? Can you address this sitting in the Vidhan Sabha? Can you address this sitting in the Lok Sabha? Or should it be addressed in the Mohalla Sabha, in the Jan Sabha of that area? Please recall that we have the 73rd and 74th Amendment. The Model Nagar Raj Bill talks about exactly the same concept that we are talking about in our manifesto in Swaraj. We are talking about empowered local self-governance. And that doesn't mean, I mean, a lot of people, I suspect this is either they don't understand or they're trying to deliberately mislead people. They say, oh, so a Mohalla Sabha is going to decide on Kashmir. That's complete nonsense.
Sure.
But what you should decide about is the water supply to that area, the toilets, the public hygiene, the garbage collection, the roads and pavements in that area, the municipal schools which are shutting down, etc. And I would imagine that foreign capital should be quite delighted to see better governance in this country. So,
Then let's put that point about foreign capital. What is the AAP's position? Because when you were in power in Delhi, you had a view on retail.
The view is very straightforward, and I'd like to share it with your viewers. The AAP government in Delhi said very straightforwardly, this is a city where we don't have a lot of agriculture, we don't have a lot of manufacturing. What you have is lots of small businesses. And the AAP belief, based on empirical evidence, by the way, from countries like Thailand, is that the entry of large-scale, large-format, multi-brand retail leads to large-scale unemployment. Okay? And they also said, what are the benefits that come from FDI and multi-brand retail? The commonly stated benefits are lower prices to consumers, better prices to producers and farmers, and better investment in the cold chain, warehouse and storage.
Sure.
And there's a fair amount of research, and I should tell you, there are a lot of very thoughtful people within the Aam Aadmi Party who said, let's look across a slew of countries and see, actually have these benefits materialized, and what are the pros and cons of it. And on balance, they arrived at the view that FDI in retail for Delhi was not something that they would propose.
So this is specific to Delhi alone, you would think?
I said that. We were opposed to FDI in retail, in multi-brand retail in Delhi. We are certainly not opposed to FDI. We're certainly not opposed to maybe even FDI in retail in other parts of the country, but let's examine the evidence as we go along.
Sure.
Our stated position on investment, whether it is foreign or Indian, is that the job of the state is to create empowering conditions so that all investors want to invest, are encouraged to invest, believe that they have an inviting environment, simple laws, rationalized tax structures, stable policy environment, so that investors, whoever they are, whatever color, Indian, foreign, whatever it might be, flourish.
Sure. I have a last couple of questions, and I'm sure you've been asked this before, but it is being understood right now that by quitting the government, that the Aam Aadmi Party has lost a lot of popularity and credibility, that it could have stayed in power and cleaned the system up as it promised. Is that affecting your ambitions to go national?
Well, Harsha, it's certainly a reality that a lot of people, when I talk to people, people seem to be evenly divided. About 50% say it was really bad idea to resign. And 50%... So it has had an impact. Certainly. And 50% say it was a really good idea. I don't know anyone who's actually sitting on the fence and saying we haven't decided. Let me tell you my personal view on this. The first is that I don't know of any government since independence, either in the center or in the states, which once they are elected, once they get power, don't cling to power. They just absolutely don't give it up. Here's the first instance of a government which has resigned on principle. And let me say something more. It goes to, the essence of character, जो हम हिंदी में अस्तित्व कहते हैं. For Arvind Kejriwal, fighting against corruption and the Jan Lokpal bill was the core reason why he joined Anna, why he left Anna and formed the party, why he fought the elections, why he formed the government. And when it became clear to him that the bill was not going to pass, he said, look, I haven't come here just to hold on to the chief minister's chair. I've come to bring change. It's clear these guys are not going to allow me to pass it. And therefore, it's an issue of principle. It's an issue of integrity. Yeah. And he resigned on that.
There is no debate that the AAP has brought in change in the political scenario. My final question to you, Meera, is you're contesting 430 seats across the country. Opinion polls seem to have given you much higher number earlier in the first phase of the elections, or first phase of when all the action started. That seems to be subsiding. Now, somehow the perception is AAP is losing ground.
So, my sense of it is we will only really know on the date that the votes are counted, to be quite candid. What I can tell you is that every single constituency in this country is going to be a very, very hard fight, including South Bombay. And by the way, including Banaras. And the reason is...
You think so?
Absolutely. Have no doubt about it. Have no doubt about it. And so the real issue today is, what we're seeing is actually very, very good for democracy. I can only speak to the AAP candidates. I mean, you look at the CVs of these people, and I feel very privileged to belong to this group. The collective experience, organizational experience of life of the Aam Aadmi Party candidates overwhelms every other political party put together, right? We don't have experience in politics, and certainly not in dirty politics, but we have a lot of organizational governance experience. And not a single candidate has criminal charges against them. Not a single candidate is there by virtue of being the son and daughter of someone. They're all there on merit. And this is really good for India, because for the first time, India has a real alternative. They can choose. We are very clear on our manifesto. We've said what we believe in a variety of areas.
Sure.
We are issue-based. You can look at the candidates. There's no Mickey Mouse stuff over here. What you see is what you get. And I think that's very, very important. I mean, we are raising the bar for all candidates in all political parties. And I feel, as I said, very proud to belong to this party.
Meera, many thanks for your time. Thank you so much and good luck.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.